Okay, hi everybody. It's nice to see you. Good to be back here. This is, just so you know, this is really a two-part shiur. This is part one. I believe, there's a. I'm on again in about an hour from now, so that will be part two. The handouts that you have are mostly for part two. We'll see if we get to it today, but just so you have it, looks like this, and you can avail yourself of one or look on with a friend. What I wanted to talk to you about today in these two shiurim are really two related stories. One of them, the one which I think I'll get to in the second shiur, is really perhaps the most mysterious story in Sefer Shemot. It is the story of Moshe and Sipporah at the inn. That strange story that happens after the burning bush, where things seem to be going pretty well, right? Hashem sends Moshe on his way to go back to Mitzrayim. There's even a nice little pasuk here we can read to get a flavor of it, where in chapter 4, Parak Daled, pasuk Chaf Aleph, very last thing, really, that Hashem says to Moshe, Vayomer Hashem HaMoshe, the very close of the burning bush narrative, God says to Moshe, B'lechtecha lashuv Mitzrayim, when you go back to Mitzrayim, Re'eh kol ha'mochtivna asher samti be'adcha, don't forget all about those wonderful signs that I gave you to do. V'asitem lifnei Paro, you can do those wonderful miracles before Paro. And don't get upset if he doesn't listen. Aniyah chazek et libo, I know he's not going to listen to you. V'lo yishalach et ha'am. When that happens, here's what you do. V'amarta al Paro, ko amar Hashem b'ni b'chor Yisrael. You should say to Paro, this is what Hashem says, my firstborn child is Israel. V'amar lecha shalach et b'ni v'yavdeni. I'm telling you, send out my child that he may serve me. V'tma'en l'shalcho. And if you refuse to send him out, in the end, I'll kill your firstborn child. That's what you should tell him. So you just go, you have your staff, you have your signs, everything's going to be good. See you. Now, if you have to stop right here and sort of analyze the relationship between God and Moshe. Somebody just asked you, so how are God and Moshe doing in their relationship on a scale from 0 to 10? When 0 is terrible, right, and 10 is wonderful, right? How do you think God and Moshe are doing? 9? I think they're doing pretty well, right? It's like, when you're going off to school on the first day and mom says, don't forget your lunchbox. There's all these goodies in your lunchbox. It's like, don't forget your staff. Don't forget the miracles. It's good. Right? It's like, don't get upset if he doesn't listen to you. I'm telling you, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it, right? It's like God is this reassuring parent. It's really going to be okay. Which makes the very next pasuk just all the more shocking. Just an almost impossible pasuk to read. Next pasuk. Where are we here? Vayihi baderech, so they're on the way, but Malone that night at the hotel. Vayifgesheyu Hashem, God meets up with him, presumably Moshe. Vayivakesh hamito, and tries to kill him. How do you even read that? Like, I thought they were doing well. You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden God shows up and tries to kill him? How do we even understand that? And so there's a strange story that Sipporah takes a flint and realizes immediately what happened, that they didn't get a chance to do milah for their son, so that she quickly does it, and then God leaves Moshe alone, and everything's fine, and then we forget about it, and everything goes on as if it's normal. How do we understand this very, very, very strange story? I think this story is in a way connected to, to today, to fast day. On fast days, we say Avinu Malkeinu, right? Over and over again. We'll say it in Yamim Noraim Avinu Malkeinu. Those words slip off of our tongue as if they're the most natural words in the world, our Father, our King. And yet, I think what this story will help us understand, hopefully by the end of our look at it, is that Avinu Malkeinu is not a simple thing to say. Our Father, our King. To be a father is not the same thing as to be a king. To be a king is not the same thing as to be a father. And the fact that God is both our father and our king is a remarkable, shocking truth with all sorts of unexpected developments. One of them, I think, is this story. And I want to try to show you how that's true. This story, this strange story of Moshe and Tzipporah at the inn, is in fact the climax of another larger story. If you think about the beginning of Shemot is interesting because where Shemot is really about the Exodus, there's something that happens before that, which is the backstory of a particular individual person, and that person is Moshe. We hear about his origin story. If you really think about it, his origin story, where is the climax of his origin story? Where is it that the story of Moshe as a person sort of seems to end and the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim and the Exodus seems to begin? I think you could make an argument that the transition point is this story we've just looked at, is the story of Moshe and Tzipporah at the inn. Think about it. Until now, what do you hear? You hear that there was a man from Beit Levi, Vayikach et Bat Levi, and they had a child, they had Moshe, and he grew up, and he's in the palace, and he leaves, and he goes, and he sees this burning bush, and he's coming back from the burning bush, and he encounters God, and God almost kills him. And then, next thing you know, he's in Mitzrayim, and the talich, the process of Yetziat Mitzrayim, of the Exodus, really begins. It's remarkable then that this very, very strange story of Moshe and Tzipporah at the inn would be the end of the Moshe origin story, almost as if it's a climax to that story. How do we understand the Moshe origin story such that this is the climax to that story? So what I want to do with you in the two shiurim is this. Here's the game plan. Right now, for the time that we have left, I want to look at the Moshe origin story with you, leading up to the story of Moshe and Tzipporah at the inn. Then in the second shiur, I want to use that as a basis for looking at the story of Moshe and Tzipporah at the inn. And I want to show you what I think is a very fascinating literary structure, which sheds light on the meaning of the story. It's really a mind-boggling structure. It's what you have here in your handouts. I'm not going to introduce it now. We'll get to it in the second shiur. But let's begin in the Moshe origin story. I want to argue the Moshe origin story has three parts: a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning is the story of Moshe's birth and all the events that take place in Mitzrayim until he runs away to Midian and ends up in his father-in-law's house. That's the beginning of the story. The middle of the story is the burning bush, the back and forth that takes place between God and Moshe at the burning bush. The end of the story I want to call what happens after the burning bush, as Moshe's leaving the burning bush and on his way to the inn, right? Climaxing with the inn. Three parts to the Moshe origin story. Let's begin with the middle, the story of the burning bush. Something very strange about the story of the burning bush. You don't always see it if you just read the story of the burning bush because you're used to the story. But if you extrapolate the story into your own life, right, you can see it. I need a volunteer. Can I get a volunteer? Hi. Okay, you are? Sarah? Sarah. Okay, that's good. You're good, Sarah. Come right over here. Sarah, you can just take a seat right over here. I'm going to interview you, okay? Okay. Sarah, nice to meet you. My name is David. Sarah, do you live around here? Okay. You married? Do you have a husband? You're cool? Okay, is your husband here in the audience? Where is he? Can you raise your hand, husband? Oh, he's over there. Okay. She volunteered you too. Okay. All right, Sarah, what's his name? Chaim. All right, fine. All right, so Sarah and Chaim, here you are. Where do you live when you're not in Deal? Brooklyn. All right. But you're in Deal for the summer?
Yes.
All right, fine. All right, so imagine that you and Chaim, right? You're leaving this shiur, right? And you're on your way to Brooklyn. You forgot something at home. You want to go bring the bathing suits back to Deal, right? So you're on your way to Brooklyn, Sarah. And as you're going, you're on the side of the Garden State Parkway. There's a little traffic. And you notice there's a dumpster fire. It's a dumpster fire. There's a dumpster on fire. All the cars are all passing, but but Chaim, he sees the dumpster fire, and he says, Sarah, do you mind if we just stop and watch the dumpster fire for a little bit? And you're like, could we please go home? Could we please go home? We've got things to do at home, right? And we don't have time to watch the dumpster fire. But Chaim is like, no, we really need to watch the dumpster fire. I mean, I just want to see this. It's a really interesting fire. So you pull off because you humor him, and you're looking at the dumpster fire. And Chaim's looking at that dumpster fire, and he's looking at it, and he's looking at it, and you're looking at your watch, and can we please go already? And then Chaim says to you, Sarah, there's something strange going on with that dumpster. The garbage, it's burning, but it's not being consumed, right? I don't know what's going on with that dumpster. The second after Chaim says that, an angel jumps onto the roof of the car, right, and says, Sarah, Sarah, and you say Hineni, right? Here I am, right? And it's like, we've seen this movie before, right? And then, and it's the angel of God. Why do you know that it's the angel of God, right? The angel of God says the following, right? And now imagine if I just said to you, Sarah and Chaim, how do you see your summer going? And you say, well, I don't know, we'll be in Deal, we'll hang out a little bit, we'll go to the beach, we'll do our thing, we'll socialize with our friends. But the angel has different plans for you. The angel says, something's going on. There's the November elections coming up, right? And I have a job for you, right? And the angel of the Lord says, first of all, I want to demonstrate to you that I'm an angel of the Lord, and I want to give you a mission at the same time. The mission is, Sarah, that you must run for Senate, right? And an open seat that's going to become available, right, in your district in New York. And you need to start a campaign to run for the Senate, the angel says. And just to prove that I'm really the angel of God, the angel of God hands you a check for $357,000 drawn from the Bank of God, right, to start your campaign. You deposit the check and it clears. So you know it's God, right? This is actually the Lord, right? There's no question about this. So I don't know if it's a mirage. It's not a mirage. It's God. So God himself has come out of the dumpster fire, right? You've seen the miracle. The angel says, I know that you were planning on going back to Deal, but I need you to start this campaign. The future of America depends upon it. What would you do? Would you, A, go...
Can I still be home for dinner?
You can't, no. You can't be home for... The angel says, I'm sorry, I really need you, right? So your choices are, go back to Deal and ignore the angel. You've got things to do. Or B, stay in Brooklyn and look into finding an office to start your campaign. Which do you do?
Stay in Brooklyn and look into the office.
You'd probably look into the office, right? Chaim, you agree? No, you're going back to Deal.
She hates Brooklyn.
She hates Brooklyn. You see how devoted she is. She's willing to stay in Brooklyn because of the Lord, right? I mean, that's what we would do. Most of us would do this, right? Most of us would do this. What does Moshe do? Moshe gets this exact story, and Moshe's one answer over and over and over again is no. No, I'm doing my own thing. I'm just not interested. Over and over again, 5 times, God tries to convince him that I just want you to go. And Moshe's like, no, I'm not going. He's got excuse after excuse after excuse. I can't speak well. I don't know what your name is. I can't go to Paro. He'll never listen to me. The people will never listen to me. Nothing, right? The Lord himself is talking to him. Says, I'm going to go. Why does Moshe keep on saying no? None of us would do it. So how is it that Moshe, why is he saying no? Yeah.
I don't think you're right that most of us would do it. I would totally not do it.
You would totally not do it.
I would totally not get involved in politics.
Even if the Lord himself
You're
said.
presenting it in a different way than I've ever seen it before, as a political role that she's going to have to go take, which if that's not my interest, why would I do it? Like normally you see it as it's God telling you something to do, and therefore of course you're going to do it. But if you take it in this other way, I'm giving you a political mission to do.
Yeah.
Then wouldn't it be natural if that's not my inclination to send somebody else who's interested in this stuff?
Right, I get it. Right? So let's say you tried that. Let's try that. Right?
It make a lot of sense in that sense.
Okay, possibly, right? But he really right? But first of all, remember, it's not like he's staying with the same excuse. It's not like, look, God, I just don't like politics. Do you know what I mean? It's 5 different reasons. that he gives. I don't know your name. They'll never believe me. I don't speak so well. And I guess getting to your point, it sounds like, if you think about it in your situation, there might be a reason why you really don't want to go, right? But if you're going to argue with God and you give 5 different reasons for why you don't want to go, somebody looking at it from the outside would probably say, is the truth really in one of those 5 reasons? Or is there something else that you're not saying, which is the real reason? You tell your kid to go clean their room, right? Your kid comes up with 5 different reasons why they can't clean the room. Is the truth in any one of the 5 reasons? No, the truth is there's something else they're not telling you, right? I just don't want to clean my room, right? So the question is, what is it really? And this is one of the things I want to get to. Why is it that Moshe is saying no? What is it about that the Almighty himself comes down and says, this is your tafkid in life? Most of us are looking for our tafkid in life. We want to do God's will. If God comes and says, this is my will, this is what I actually want you to do, I know it's a little different than you had in mind, then we would be happy to go do it. Moshe, for some reason, is saying no, giving 5 different reasons for the no. And what I want to suggest is, when you give 5 different reasons for why you can't do something, there's something you're not saying. There's an actual reason that's beyond it all. So the question is, what's the real reason Moshe doesn't want to go? Can we figure it out from the text? I want to flip the question to another side and ask the same question, not from the perspective of Moshe, but ask the question from the perspective of God. By the way, Sarah, you can stay here or you can go back. I'm done with you for now. But thank you very much, Sarah. We appreciate your service. Well, that's right. The second, the other side of this is to look at it from God's perspective. If you're God, right, and Moshe, do you put up with this, right? You come along, you pick Moshe, and you say, Moshe, I got a job for you, right? I'd like you to go and be the person to administrate the Exodus and take my people out of Egypt. The guy says no. You ask him again, nicely. He says no. You're God. What do you do? I mean, at some point you move on. When you just move, there's a lot of fish in the sea. If the guy really doesn't want to do this, he's obviously not for you. Do you know what I mean? What do you see from the fact that God does not move on? God is sitting there. It's almost eno lefi chvodo. It's almost God sitting there, and it's like he's begging Moshe over and over again. Maybe if I say it this way, maybe if I give you this sign, maybe if I tell you I'm with you, right? If God is sticking with it, what does that tell you? There's no one else. It's almost like there's a job description here, leader needed to take Jews out of Egypt, and only one person walks through that door. There's only one person with the qualifications needed for that job description. And if God has decided that he needs a human being to be his partner on earth to help make the Exodus happen, for some reason God has decided there's only one human being who can do this job, Moshe. Otherwise he doesn't stick with him, right? This is larger than Moshe. So why are you sticking with him? Must be it's only him. So really there's 2 sides to this question about the burning bush and Moshe's siruv, Moshe's unwillingness to do it. From Moshe's perspective, why is he saying no? What's the real reason he's saying no? From God's perspective, why is he the only one who can do it, such that God isn't moving on? I want to suggest to you today that those 2 questions answer each other. I.e., the reason why Moshe is the only one who can do this is the reason he keeps on saying no. Another way, the reason he keeps on saying no is the reason why God can't move on. There's an interesting book out there. I forgot the author, but just the title says everything you need to know from the philosophy of the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius repackaged into the language of 2018. Title of the book is The Obstacle is the Way. The obstacle is the path. The idea behind it is, in life, often you think you have something you want to do, right? But every once in a while you get these obstacles. And the obstacles are annoying because they get in the way of what you really want to be doing in life. So you need to try to figure out you need to try to deal with the obstacles so you can get back to what you really should be doing. The philosophy behind this book is that's not what you should do when you find yourself confronted by an obstacle in life. The obstacle is telling you something. The obstacle is the path. You think you're supposed to be doing something else, and you just got to deal with this obstacle so you can get back to that something else. No. The obstacle is the path. Dealing with that obstacle is the thing you're supposed to be doing. That is your tafkid in life. By the way, it's the same with learning Tanakh, right? Think about the style of Tanakh, which you're seeing here, which you're seeing with Rabbanit Ziegler. What title can I give you? That's fine, with Rabbanit Ziegler. And that, right? How do folks from this style of learning deal with questions? What's a question? A question isn't an obstacle. It's not an annoying thing that you try to find some dechiyat towards, that you just say, maybe this, maybe that. Let's get back to what we really want to say. You find a real question, a couple real questions. Those questions are gems. The obstacle is the path. They're windows. You have to deal with those obstacles. Forget what you think is going on. Those obstacles are what's going on. That's going to lead you into an understanding of what's really, really happening. If you can't accept that, and you see questions, and all you try to do is potter up the questions, and say, well, maybe this, maybe that. Let's get back to what I really want to say. I have a vort I want to tell you. No, it's not about your vort. It's about the issues that you see lying in front of you, whether or not you want to deal with them. Deal with them, and then see what's really going on. The obstacle is the path. For Moshe, it's the same thing. The reason why he doesn't want to go is the reason why he can be the only one to go. What is that reason? Can we discover it? So what I want to do with you now, so much for the middle of the Moshe origin story, I want to do now is look at the end of the Moshe origin story and then its beginning. The end I'm talking about is the story of Moshe as he leaves the burning bush. And then let's go back and look at the beginning, the story of Moshe's early life, and see if we can piece together an answer to this puzzle. So read with me. Let's begin at the very end of the burning bush. Moshe said no 5 separate times. His last argument is that he can't speak well. Kvad peh ukvad lashon anochi. Here's God's response to his 5th and last argument. Vayomer Hashem elav, mi sam pela adamu, mi yasum ilay mocheresh apikeach uiver, halo anochi Hashem. V'atalech v'anochi eyem, picha v'riticha asher tidaber. I'll translate it in a moment, but as I translate, I want you to evaluate these words and tell me how good of a response you think God is making here. I'd like you to rate it on a scale from 0 to 10. 0 is that's a terrible response, makes no sense. 10 is it's utterly compelling, right? God wins that point, right? How good is God's response? Moshe's position, I can't speak, I have a lisp. I don't talk well. You're looking for the wrong guy. God's response is, where is it? Did I just lose it again? What pasuk does that remind me? Yud Aleph. Here we go. Yeah. So God says to him, Mi sam pela adam. Who are you talking to? Who gave people mouths in the first place? O mi asumi lame. Who makes a person deaf or dumb or any handicap or pikeach or someone who can speak or iver or somebody who can see or somebody who's blind? Halo anochi Hashem. I am God. I'm the master of the universe. I'm the creator. I'm the one who made mouths. And therefore, if I say you can do it, you can do it. Vatalech. So now go. Anochi eyein picha. You're worried about your mouth? I'll be with your mouth. Hareticha asher tidaber. I'll teach you what to say. Go. All right, on a scale from 1 to 10, 0 to 10, how good is God's response? 10. That's a pretty good response, right? It's like a 10. You can't get a better response than that. So let's just chalk that up to God, right? On the scorecard between God and Moshe, Moshe 0, God 1, right? God has won the point. Okay, and now let's continue and read the next psukim. Next pasuk. Moshe says, Vayomer, Bi Adonai, my master. Shlach na bi'at tishlach. Could you just find somebody else? Just do me a favor. Just find somebody else. Find someone else. Just not me. Okay. How is this response from Moshe different than all of the others? Different than the first five? No reason. No excuse. He's flat out of excuses. It's just like, I'm telling you, could you just find someone else? Just find someone else. No excuse. You're God. You successfully parried 5 excuses very nicely. Moshe's down to this. What would be your response? What would you say if Moshe's down to that? Just find somebody else. But for you, right? It's like I need you. So what would you say? There is no one else. But just find someone else. At some point, if you're God, what do you say? Look, I am God around here, right? This is time for an executive judgment. The time for arguments is over. I am ordering you to simply go. This is not, we're just not going to discuss this anymore, right? So look at what God says. On the one hand, Vayichar af Hashem b'Moshe, God becomes angry as you might expect. You're not even giving me a reason and you're still saying no. But then God says something interesting. Vayomer, and think what's strange about this. God returns to relitigate a point he already won. Vayomer, halo Aaron achicha Levi yadati kedaber yidaber hu. But Aaron, your brother, the Levi, I know that he could speak. I have an idea. You're worried about speaking. He could speak. Gam hinehu yadze likratecha. Anyway, he's coming out to greet you. V'racha, he's going to see you. V'samach belibi, he's going to be so happy to see you. How about Aaron? He could do the speaking to you. V'dibarte love. All you'd have to do is talk to him. V'samta dadvarim bepi. You just tell him what to say. Anochi ayem picha vim pihu. You know, I'll be with you and I'll be with him. Hareti etchem asher tasun. I'll tell you both what to do. What do you say about that, Moshe? Do we have a deal? So you think that's going to work? Do you think that's going to work? If you're looking at this, Moshe said no 5 times. The last time he said no was because he couldn't speak well. We already agreed that God successfully parried that argument. God won the point. I'm God. I know you can do it. You have a mouth, I made mouths, right? Moshe still comes back and says, look, could you just find somebody else? And then it's like, God, no, I have an idea. The speaking thing we were talking about before, how about Aaron? He could speak, it would be better with him, right? You think it's going to work? It's not going to work, right? The crazy thing is it works. It works. Moshe goes. I mean, he basically goes. What happened? Like, what did Hashem say? It must be that Hashem knew that there was something there that he was, but it's so strange. You're coming back to an argument you already won, getting back to the mouth. Why? What was the magic thing that Hashem said here that suddenly made Moshe agree to go? Right? Next words. Moshe. He goes. What happened? Look at this pasuk one more time. There's something strange about it. There's a lot of things strange about it. I'm going to read it one more time. You tell me what's strange about the pasuk. Again, in slow motion, here's what God says. Vayichar af Hashem b'Moshe. He becomes angry. Vayomer, and then he says, Halo Aaron achicha halevi. But Aaron, your brother, the Levi, yadati kidaber yidaber hu. I know he would speak. And anyway, he's already coming out to greet you. He's going to see you, and he's so happy in his heart. What's odd here? Halevi. Why does it have to say that? Let's say that word wouldn't have been here. Let's say the pasuk had read that God said, Vayomer, Halo Aaron achicha, but Aaron your brother, Yadati kidaber yidaber hu. I know he would speak. What if the word Levi wasn't there? Would you come to me after this year? And will you say, Rabbi Fohrman, I have a burning question. What's your question? It said, Halo Aaron achicha. It said Aaron was your brother. But wasn't Aaron taka a Levi? He was, right? How come it didn't say, Halo Aaron achicha a Levi? You wouldn't ask that question, right? You'd be perfectly fine with it saying, Halo Aaron Achicha, right? So how come the Pasuk says, Halo Aaron Achicha Levi? I care. He's a Levi. He's from Zvulun. What difference does it make? He's your brother. Of course he's a Levi. You're a Levi. What does it matter? Why do I care?
It's having an identity crisis, and maybe Aharon was helping him solidify his identity in this certain mission.
But okay, even so, but he's a Levi, right? So how does Aaron being a Levi, like, of course he's a Levi, he's his brother, like, what? It's still odd, right? Like, why would you say that? Just like he's your brother, wouldn't that be enough? Him being a Levi, but you're a Levi. It's like self-evidently true and irrelevant all at the same time, right? It's just strange. So, but it's not the only thing that's strange about the pasuk. What else is, yeah?
Well, can you an extension of your question is why isn't the word achicha also?
Yeah, it also could be Halo Aaron. We all know who Aaron is. I mean, Achicha less so. Right? Maybe there's more than one Aaron, right? But then more than one Aaron, Achicha Halevi, it's not like there's only one Aaron, the brother. Yeah.
It could be that Hashem is strengthening his own point by saying, you know that Shevet Levi, your Shevet, is already the leadership, and Aharon must be an established leader there, so he'll kind of get you in. He's your guy.
Maybe, except we don't really know that Levi's established leadership from the Psukim. We just happen to know he's a Levi, yeah?
Isn't it stranger? Moshe just asked us to send somebody else, and I was mentioning somebody else. Why don't you just send in there?
Yeah, true. If Aaron's good enough, why don't we just go with Aaron? Like, if God thinks Aaron is great, why can't Aaron just do the whole thing himself?
Is it kind of reminding Moshe that he is a Levi as well, as opposed to this Midianite that decided to kind of veer away?
Possibly. So let's see. I just want to, actually, I don't want to answer the question now. I just want to point it out and just look at all the questions. Then let's come back and look at all of them and see what they seem to point to. So let's just go back to this pasuk. Is there anything else strange about the pasuk aside from the word Levi? Let's read it one more time. Hello, Aaron Achicha Levi, Yadati Kidaber Yidaber Hu. Aaron Achicha, your brother, I know that he would speak. Gam Hinehu Yotzei Likratecha. And even now he's coming out to greet you. V'racha v'samach b'libo. He's going to see you. He's going to be so happy. Yeah.
The last time that brothers were coming to meet each other was Yaakov and Esav, and that didn't go so well. So, Hashem is pointing out, like, this is a moment when it's Moshe and Aaron, the brothers coming to meet each other.
Okay, you're giving an interpretation. I'm going to hold back on interpretations. I'm interested in questions right now. What are the questions? What are the problems in the pasuk aside from the word Levi?
Why did Aaron know to come out and meet Moshe?
Okay, how did Aaron know to come out and meet Moshe? Interesting question. Let me ask you an even more bothersome question. Is what God is saying true or not? Can you demonstrate whether what God is saying is true or not based upon the next psukim in the Torah? Scan the next psukim in the Torah and look and see, do you think what Hashem is saying now is true? Hashem's position, Halo Aaron Achicha Levi, right? Aaron, your brother, Gam Hinehu Yotzei Likratecha. He's going out to greet you. Even now. Excellent. Read Pasuk Chav Zayin. Now remember, this is tomorrow. This is the next day. How do you know? Because the story of the Malon happens in between. So, story number one, right? It's Monday. On Monday, Hashem says, Hello, Aaron Achicha Levi, hu yotzei likratecha. Aaron, your brother, he's coming out to greet you. Then the Malon. Then it's Tuesday. And now go read Tuesday. What is that about? God says to Aaron, Lech likrat Moshe bibara. You really should go out and greet Moshe. Like, I thought he was on his way already on Monday. Evidently, he wasn't. And as to your question, how did he know to go? Because God told him to go. But on Tuesday, God told him to go. But on Monday, God said he's already on his way. Why is God lying? I mean, you could say that, but Breshit doesn't happen after Dvarim, right? I mean, it sounds like there's a Monday and there's a Tuesday and there's a Malon and there's a sleeping. It's hard to argue that it's not chronological. It's strange. It sounds like God is fudging it on Monday, right? God is like, well, he's almost going to greet you because I'm going to tell him tomorrow. But why should I tell you I'm going to tell him tomorrow? I'll just tell you now. He's on his way. He's as good as on his way. And besides, he's going to love you so much. He's going to see you. He's going to be so happy. It's like God seems a little too eager. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really going to work out okay, Moshe. It's going to be fine. What is God so worried about? It's so strange. By the way, what does this remind you of? A meeting between two people. And there's a third party who's fudging it to try to get them to go together. Who does this remind you of? Aaron himself, according to Chazal. This is exactly what Chazal say Aaron's meeting was. This is what would be two people not quite so sure about meeting each other. What would Aaron do? He'd lie. He'd go up to one of them and say, that guy, he really wants to see you. He's going to see you. He's going to be so happy in his heart, right? And he's going out to see you now. Is he going out to see you now? No, he's staying right there, right? But I tell you that. Then I go to that guy and I say, you really should go and go meet him. He's going to be so happy to see you. And we say that this is Aaron who's Rodef Shalom. That's what Chazal said. What was the makar that Chazal had? Where did they come up with that from? Maybe here. Where's the first time you and I ever meet Aaron? It's right here. This is the first time we even hear that there's someone who exists who's Aaron, who's Moshe's brother. Our introduction to Aaron comes with God playing the kind of game that Chazal ascribe later on to Aaron himself. Maybe Chazal understood that how did Aaron learn the game? He learned it from God. The way he got introduced to Moshe. But still, why? Why? We don't know, right? The Malone is on the way. And it's strange also, because God doesn't... That's true. I don't have a great answer to that question, by the way, but I think it's a great question, right? Which is that it sounds like God says he's angry, but then God doesn't seem angry. He seems very gentle when he's saying this about Aaron. Okay, let's keep on reading. So he says, you'll go with Aaron, take the mata, and we get to Pasuk Yud Chet. Vayelech Moshe v'yeshev al yaser chotno. So Moshe goes back to Yitro and he says, El chana v'ashuv el achai asher b'Mitzrayim. I'd like to go back and return to my brothers that are in Mitzrayim. Va'ere, and I'd like to see ha'odam chayim. Are they really still alive? I can't even believe they're still alive after what they're going through back in Egypt. He's asking permission from his employer for a leave of absence. What does Yitro do? He grants it. Vayomer Yitro leMoshe lech l'shalom. Yitro says to Moshe, go in peace. Very good. What would you expect to happen next? So he goes, he leaves the sneh. He asks permission from Yitro to go. Yitro says, Bisimcha. What should Moshe do next? He should go. What actually happens? Vayomer Hashem al Moshe b'Midyan lech shuv Mitzrayim. God says to Moshe, you should go. Evidently, he wasn't going. He still wasn't going. After all of this, there's still something holding him back. What is holding him back? The next thing that happens is he takes his wife and he takes his children, he takes the staff, and he goes, and Moshe addresses him and says, I'm going to tell Paro, B'ni B'chor Yisrael, and then there's that strange story of the Malon, where God almost kills him. God tries to kill him. What's going on? Right? The clue, I think, comes in the word Levi. Halo Aaron achicha halevi, yadati kidaber yidaberhu. Why would God have to say that to Moshe? Your brother, but isn't Aaron your brother, your Levi brother, coming out to greet you?
What is it about Levi that's so prominent?
So let's think about that. It sounds like there's a series of modifiers here. Look at the pasuk again. What pasuk is it? Pasuk Yud Gimel, Yud Daled. Halo Aaron achicha Levi. Remember, this is the first time you and I were introduced to Aaron. An interesting possibility is this also the first time Moshe was introduced to him? We don't know of Aaron until now. Was this their first meeting or not? Listen carefully. Hello, Aaron. Aaron. Which Aaron? Aaron achicha. Aaron, your brother. Which brother? Halevi. Your Levi brother. If you read it that way, what is the inexorable implication of this pasuk? He has another brother. So you think that's crazy. He doesn't have another brother. Listen carefully. You know something about the identity of the other brother from this. Hello, Aaron. Aaron. Which Aaron? Aaron achicha, your brother. Which brother? Your Levi brother. What do you know about the other brother? He's not a Levi. Now the question is, who is he? Who's the other brother? And why isn't Aaron going? The answer to this all, I think, comes from the very first psukim of the burning bush. The very first psukim of the burning bush actually tell you why Moshe doesn't want to go. Aaron Sorkin, the writer for The West Wing, is giving a master class on screenwriting in which he says, how do you know if you have a good story for the screen? How do you know if you have a story that you can make a movie out of? You went on a cross-country trip, and a lot of goofy things happened to you on your cross-country trip, and you want to make a movie out of it. Do you have a story? He says, no, you don't have a story. A lot of goofy things on your cross-country trip does not equal a story. How do you know when you have a story? He says a story is made out of two things: intention and obstacle. Intention is your main character has to want something really badly. Very badly. It doesn't make a difference what they want, but they need to want it very badly. They need to want to get to deal because they have a talk that they're supposed to give, but there's this incredible pileup on the Garden State Parkway, and they're going to be an hour and a half late unless they figure out something to do. There is this intention and there's this obstacle. And the obstacle is formidable, and it's getting in the way of the intention, and now you have a story. Right? So what happened with this intention and this obstacle? The story of the burning bush is a very interesting story. What's the intention and what's the obstacle? Take a look at the beginning of the story. Pasuk Chaf Gimel in Perek Bet. Vayihi bayamim harabim mahem. And it happened in those long days. Vayamat melech Mitzrayim. There was a catalyst. The catalyst was the king of Egypt died, and that changed everything. For 400 years there was servitude until something happened. A king of Egypt died, and that one event set in motion a series of events that led to the burning bush. I want to argue that one event, the death of the king, leads to the intention in the story and to the obstacle. Both the intention and the obstacle are products of the death of the king of Egypt. First, the intention. Whose intention? God's intention. What happens because the king of Egypt dies? They finally had a moment to rest. A moment that they could just stop and look at their dismal situation and sigh. And when they did, they screamed. Right? They screamed out, Vatal Shavatam, and those screams rose to Elokim, rose to God, Min Havodah. Vayishma Elokim et Nakatam. God heard those pleas. Vayizkor Elokim et Brito, and God remembered his covenant with Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Vayar Elokim et Bnei Yisrael, and God saw the pain of the people. Vayeda Elokim, and he understood, he knew, he connected to the pain. And when you connect to someone's pain, when you really connect to that pain, what does it do for you? You see someone in terrible pain, what do you want to do? You want to help. You want to do something. You want to do something. It's not enough to just feel. You want to do. And it's the same with God. God commits himself to do. And at that point, the burning bush happens. God says to Moshe, I got to find somebody. I need somebody to change this, to take my people out of Egypt. That connection, that empathy that God feels with the people, right, is the intention propelling God to act. But if God is going to act, God needs a human being to help him, and there's an obstacle. The obstacle, the great obstacle in the story of the burning bush, is that the one human being who can help him doesn't want to help. Right? The one human being who can help him is just no, no, no. Where does this obstacle come from? I want to suggest it comes from the same place the intention comes from. Vayihi bayamim harabim ahem vayamat melech Mitzrayim. There was something about the death of the king of Egypt that not only created the divine intention to take the people out, but the obstacle of why Moshe will now say no. Halo Aaron achicha halevi. You have a brother, a Levi brother. Who's the other brother?
The king.
The king is the other brother. Put yourself in Moshe's shoes, right? Put yourself in Moshe's shoes. Where did you grow up? You grew up in the palace, right? You grew up in the palace. Who did you know? Who's your brother, right? Who do you think your brother really is? For all you know, right? And we often get this wrong because our minds, when we think of Moshe, we think of Moshe Rabbenu, right? But who was Moshe before he was Moshe Rabbenu? How did Moshe become Moshe Rabbenu? Moshe wasn't born Moshe Rabbenu, right? What did it mean to grow up Moshe? Put yourself in the shoes. Just walk yourself through the story. Look at the beginning of the story. What's the beginning of the story? Beginning of the story. So he's in the bulrushes by the reeds, right? Where are we? Right? Here. I mean, in a way, the story even begins here, right? Vayitzav Paro l'chol hamo lemor l'chol haben hayilud hayorah tashlichu v'chol habat hachayun. Paro comes and commands all of the children are going to be thrown into the Nile. Chazal are omed. Chazal point out. We got to finish up. Chazal point out that there was a problem in what Paro says. Kol haben hayilud, as if he's saying all children, even Egyptian children, should be thrown to the Nile this one day. Why? Chazal tell a very strange story. They said, you know why? Because because Paro consulted his astrologers, and his astrologers told him, Hayom, today, the Savior for the Jewish people is born. We know something about him, they said. We know that the Savior for the Jewish people will be born, and we know that his downfall will come from water, as is in fact the case. There's only one thing we don't know, the astrologers said, which is what? Whether he's Jewish or Egyptian. Now let me ask you a question. If the astrologers were so smart that they could figure out that today is the day that the Savior of the Jewish people is born, and so smart that they could see in the stars that his downfall will come to water, how come they're so dumb and they can't figure out whether he's Egyptian or Jewish? The answer is it's essentially undetermined. It's not that they can't see the truth. It's that the truth has not been determined. It's up to him. Think about it. He's born, right? And he's rescued. He's rescued by Bat Paro. But as he's rescued by Bat Paro, and Miriam comes over to Bat Paro, Miriam says something to Bat Paro. It's almost as if Miriam sees the indecision on Bat Paro's face, that on the one hand, Batachmolalav, as a human being, she has compassion on the child, but on the other hand, the cognitive part of her kicks into gear and says, it's a Jewish child. What am I going to do? I'm Hitler's daughter. I'm going to save this child. Her compassion is battling against her nationality, and Miriam sees this, and Miriam has a third way out. Excuse me, sire. Should I go and find a nursemaid from the Hebrews for you? And she says, yes, Lefi, go. It's a brilliant stroke of genius on the part of Miriam. You don't have to solve this problem now. I can find an out for you. Give her to some nursemaid to take care of. But there's one thing that Miriam doesn't tell Bat Paro. The very next words, Vatikra et em hayeled. Who does she call? The mother of the child. How do you know Bat Paro doesn't know it's the mother of the child? Because when Miriam introduces Bat Paro to the mother, Bat Paro says, take this child and I'll pay you to nurse him. You don't pay a mom to nurse a child. Bat Paro doesn't know. And if Bat Paro doesn't know, then if you're the mother of Moshe, when you nurse that child for 2 years, for 3 years, what's the one word you can never say to that child? My child. You can never say my son. You have to be the hired hand. And as the hired hand, you have to give that child over to Bat Paro at the end of 3 years. And that child will grow up never knowing another mother other than Bat Paro. And an amazing thing happens then. And give me like 3 minutes and I'll be done with you for this part and we'll continue. An amazing thing happens. He grows up in the palace. Vayigdal hayeled, Vayihi bayamim hahem, and in those days, Vayigdal Moshe. Moshe grows up. Vayetze el echav, and he goes out to his brothers. Vayar v'sivlasam, and he sees their pain. What's the problem here? How did he know they were his brothers? There's only one possibility. Only one person who could have told him. Which is who? Bat Paro. She had to have told him. She's the only one with the contact to be able to tell him. It had to have been that at some point, we don't know when, she has a conversation with them. And the conversation is, I love you, and I will always love you. But I need you to understand I'm not your biological mother. You see those Hebrews out there that we torment, those others, you're actually one of them, but I still love you. And at that point, Moshe goes out to those brothers. And you have to think about yourself, who are you? If you're Moshe, you grew up, as Steven Spielberg would have it, going chariot racing with your brother out there in the palace, right? He's your brother. And then, all of a sudden, your mom tells you she's not your mom. And those Hebrews, those slaves, those Mexicans, those Guatemalans, those people that ICE is rounding up, right? To throw out of the country. That's you. And all of a sudden you go out and you say, I'm one of them. And you see what? You see a fight. What pasuk is the fight? What's that? Vayi bayama Yud Aleph, right? Vayar ish mitzri makeh ish ivri me'achav. Look at that carefully. Ish mitzri, extra word. Ish, a mitzri man, hurting an ivri man. Vayifen kova ko, and he looks this way and that. Vayar ki ein ish, and he sees there's no ish. And what does he do next? Vayach et ha-mitzri. What word is missing from mitzri? Ish. It's as if he sucked the ishness out of the mitzri. And it's like, you dare to hurt my brother? You've made my brothers into others? I'm going to make you into another. You're not even a man. You treated us like not men? I'll kill you. And he kills him in an act of vengeance for what's happening to his brother. But then on the next day, Moshe's forced to examine his values because now two of his brothers are fighting one another. And if the only thing that motivated them was a foreigner is hurting his brother, what do you do when it's two brothers? And he's almost paralyzed, but he's about to act. And then the aggressor says to him, who are you? What are you doing here? Mi samcha li ish sar v'shofet aleinu. Who made you into an ish who has authority over us? And he runs away. And he runs away to Midian. He gets to Midian, and now he sees that there are non-brothers, Midianite girls who are suffering because someone's tormenting them. So what's motivating Moshe? If it's only like a brother who's being hurt, then he wouldn't help these girls. But no, he sees a human being in pain, and he helps them. Only to hear the girls report back to their father, and what do they say? Ish mitzri hitzilanu miyad haroim. How those words must have hurt. Ish mitzri, an Egyptian man. That identity that I'm running from, right? Now I just look like an Egyptian to them. I'm an Egyptian man. He's the one who saved us from the tzon. But look at what Yitro says. Vayomer al benota vayo lama ze azavten et ha'ish. Look how Yitro sees him. Just an ish. not a Mitzri, not a Jew, just a human being. And what's Moshe's response? This is my kind of guy. This is exactly what I was looking for. Leave behind all the identity politics, all the complications. I want to run away from all that. Can't I just be a human being? Vayoel Moshe, and Moshe went lashevet, and was only too happy to sit and dwell et ha'ish, with this man from nowhere, with this international man, Yitro, who looks at Moshe as a man from nowhere, and together they can both be men from nowhere. Vayiten et tziporei bitola Moshe, and then, just then, vateled lo ben, vayikret shmo Gershom, ki amar ger hayiti beretz nachriya. He has this child, but there's something sad about what he names the child, ger hayiti beretz nachriya, because it sounds like what? It sounds like something that we were. Ger yazarach beretz lo lahem, a stranger in someone else's land. But for Moshe, why is he a stranger? Because he's in Midian. Where's home? Mitzrayim. Ger hayiti beretz nachriya. Somehow he wants to come home to Mitzrayim. And this is a nutshell for the problem. Moshe has to be the one to take us out. But Moshe thinks that Mitzrayim is home. And Moshe just wants to be released from all the questions of identity. I just want to be an Ish. And along comes God and says, hello, I have a job from you. Your brothers back in Egypt. I need you to go take them out of Egypt. There's only one thing that happened. The king of Egypt just died. The new king is going to be who? The child that you grew up in the palace with. The child that maybe you went horse racing with. That, as Steven Spielberg would have it, right? In Steven Spielberg's movie, The Prince of Egypt, a lot of things he got wrong, but I think one thing he got right was this, right? The backstory of Moshe and his brother, right? Which is that in order to be able to take out the people, you are going to have to go up against the person who you grew up with as your brother. Now do you understand why Moshe would only say no? No, for this unspeakable reason. How could I go up against my brother? What is God's solution? At the very end of it all, when Moshe's flat out of excuses, just find someone else. God says, I can make an excuse too. Let's go back to that reason about your list. I know I won the point. But you know what? I have a better idea to help you with the list. It's not about the list. You won the point. God's just looking for a reason to get Aaron in the picture. Hello, Aaron, Achicha, Halevi. You know, Moshe, you do have another brother. You have a Levi brother, just like you. And maybe you never met him before. But he's coming out even now to greet you. Hey, Aaron, it's time to go. Come on, let's go. But Aaron's going to see you so happy in his heart. What are you worried about? You never be accepted because you just look like an Ish Mitzri? You just look like the royalty of Mitzrayim who torments the Jews, that he would spit in your face? No, not Aaron. Barach ha'vasamach b'libo. He's going to accept you as a brother. Now, do you think maybe you could go? If Moshe can feel connected to Aaron, then what happens at the bottom of the mountain? Aaron sees him, like Yishak and kisses him. And that kiss is everything. If you can connect to Aaron, your one physical brother, then maybe you can go back to seeing the rest of your people as brothers. Then maybe you can go up against your other brother. The question is, which of your brothers will you side with? When I come back in an hour, what I want to suggest is that this identity conflict, the obstacle is the way, was not incidental for Moshe. It was the reason why he was chosen. No one else could be chosen but him. No one else had this identity conflict. The reason why Moshe is saying no is the reason why it can only be him. Why is the identity conflict so crucial to God? We'll get back to that when we come back in an hour. I'll see you then.